What kind of threat is the human race facing? August 8, 2019. The text below, by Giorgio Piacenza, may be showing us why ETs do not manifest openly. What kind of threat is the human race facing? Maybe it's nothing like that, but something much more complex. Aliens 20th Century Fox. Most of the time, I don't think they or most supposedly different types of ETs pose a hostile physical threat. I am also concerned about choosing the threat narrative to promote the militarization and continuation of previous policies. In fact, I think according to experience contacted reports most ETs are what we might consider benevolent and that we should have a good relationship with them. However, what I am asking here is whether or not we can adapt to their presence, and that may be the biggest threat we are facing. I also ask why they seem to be supporting the cover-up policies, as they can come out permanently and end the cover-up very quickly. So I wonder if they act this way to really prevent them from becoming a threat to us. But a different kind of threat. An evolutionary threat, culturally and socially, not militarily or physically hostile. At the SCU meeting with Lou Elizondo in Huntsville, Alabama, the two most mentioned factors on the UFO threat issue were ability and intent. I believe that the contextual factors mentioned above could be incorporated into an exopolitical assessment, giving more nuances. The intent is crucial, but the ability to influence a system even without pretending to be a threat can be a threat if the system cannot adapt. Beings and things can be involuntarily threatening. Perhaps most, some or all ETs, UFO intelligences, transdimensional beings, or as it may be appropriate to call them, do not want to become a real threat to us. But there may be a threat based on how we as a species, cultures and societies would respond to an open contact situation. It would really be necessary to study the anthropological record of less technologically developed societies and how they adapted or disappeared when contact with more technologically developed societies occurred. We know of cases where the technologically dominant culture came up with a narrative that justifies dominance to conquer the less technologically developed culture, and we know that when cultures survived they responded with different resilient adaptations, such as syncretism. But in the case of what appears to be a consortium of advanced extraterrestrial cultures operating on Earth with different plans and activities under some sort of agreement, we may have in historical human terms a unique situation in which they do not want to conquer us. In that case, we may need to consider how we, as a species, can adapt to more advanced cultures that do not want to conquer us. ET/UFO intelligences may know that their presence can be a form of threat, even if their intention is not that of gross conquest. The threat would be the inability of the human family to meet the challenge and change its assumptions and biological thinking based on instinct and feelings about others. The ETs themselves seem to stay away from us unless they are performing specific activities that reveal their presence, sometimes unintentionally and sometimes with foresight. But in general, they avoid showing openly to end the denial and cover-up of their presence. It can be argued that they, at least since the 1940s, agreed to the cover-up and respected the cover-up response by a small percentage of the population within influential national decision-making circles, which they were forced to know. Many seem to have suggested to those contacted to talk about their peaceful intentions to anyone who would listen, respecting the prevailing answer to deny, ridicule and keep their presence a secret. They also seem to have respected the lack of serious interest from scientists, religious leaders, other cultural leaders and the general population. They may be doing so as not to become a real threat to us, perhaps because they do not want to spoil our possibilities for self-development as a species, whereas we may be their experimental creation to whom sometimes delicately, sometimes directly they might have influenced historically. To better understand the nature of any possible threat, a good source of information leading to new cultural concepts and cultural evolution could be obtained through direct contact rather than avoiding contact/experimenter information in order to maintain credibility or legitimacy with cultural representatives and standard decision makers. I think we need to compile and study contact information and also try to communicate directly with the UFO intelligences intervening on Earth. The more a living, complex and connected system there is, the smaller influences can bring down the whole unless there are safeguards in place. In today's world, where almost everyone in a highly connected technology world has more power, in a way, more previously less powerful individuals can now be considered a potential threat more than decades ago. In a developing country, I recently detected the presence of a hacking school. The situation, in which highly connected individuals can manipulate data for their own benefit, can damage the system and can be used as an excuse to set up a surveillance society. If individuals around the world do not evolve to accept everyone in their tribe rediscovering civic values, we will need a watchful society. But is a surveillance society better able to adapt to an unambiguous extraterrestrial presence? Is living in a society that serves only the interests of the few who control surveillance better suited to a world in which aliens move without hiding? By suppressing information about the origins of humanity relative to extraterrestrials, humanity may not have all the ingredients needed to develop new adaptive concepts as a unified species. How in the world will we adapt to the openly acknowledged presence of non-human species now that the current political character challenging liberal democracies is to retreat to the xenophobic identity tribes?